financial incentives. And I'm kind of torn on this because I've seen cases where it's worked really well, where, dentists will come in with like a stack of gift cards and say like, look, every time you get a Google review, I'm going to give you $10 Starbucks gift card. And they'll get like 50 reviews in a week, or some practices, they give them a percentage of the booked treatment, right? Like a sort of like a sales incentive. And it's worked well where, a practice would go from booking maybe $25,000 worth of treatment in a month to $75,000 in a month. But I've also seen cases where it turns into a total disaster and it just blows up in the dentist's face, where now all of a sudden you have staff that aren't willing to lift a finger unless there's a bonus involved, or the bonuses drive a lot of internal clashing because people argue about, well, actually that was my patient and I booked them because I talked to him 2 weeks ago. And even though Keli booked him, yesterday, I'm the one who deserves this. It turns into a nightmare, right? So I'm wondering from you guys, from your experience, do you like financial incentives or not? If you do, is there a good way to implement them? Or like, what are some cautionary tales to sort of watch out for? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I turn it back around to the doctor initially and say, okay, well, what are your goals? What is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? And how is that going to benefit your practice? Right. So if you're just going to lay out some goals, then there's got to be a financial benefit to the doctor just as much as there is to the employee. So if you're going to give your employee $50, well, then you or the practice needs to benefit, a couple hundred or $300 off of that 50. Otherwise, you're lowering your own salary at that point to do what exactly? So, your specific goals as a practice, has to be defined before you can decide like, okay, how are we going to get there? And how am I going to incentivize, getting to that next level? And so you got to have that kind of planned out rather than just say, hey, here's a bonus system that we're going to use. And man, we're going to get 1,000 reviews. Man, people are going to give us 5 stars on Facebook or whatever it might be. Like I said, but what are you going to really get out of that?
We've seen practices where they have bonus systems in place that are meant to be motivating, and they end up becoming demotivating. Staff, maybe the goals aren't attainable. Maybe, the dentist has this really high benchmark and he wants to get there. So he sets this extravagant prize at the end. But the staff is doing everything possible and can never get the extravagant prize. And so now they just become like, what does it even matter? Or we have dentists who, like you say, get frustrated because now they're incentivizing people just to do their jobs. I hired you, I pay you. And so now the dentist is reluctant to give whatever incentive or bonus, because now you won't even answer the phone unless I pay you $1 to answer the phone. Right. So, we want to make sure that if there's a bonus system in place, that it meets a certain criteria. The bonus system can't be to make someone do their job. It's going above and beyond what your job is. So right now your job is this. We want to go above and beyond that job. So, some of the things might be working through lunch to do same day service on a patient. It might be staying late to help that patient get financed, whatever. We want it to be very clearly defined. But in order to do that, you have to have a structure where the person knows what their job is. A lot of dentists don't have position descriptions. They don't know what their job is. They just do what they're told when they're told. So we want a bonus system in place for going above and beyond. We want a bonus system in place that encourages daily, weekly, monthly productivity. It can't be hit or miss, because then that becomes demotivating. And we want it to be beneficial, like John was saying, for the doctor. If the incentive is $50, then the doctor better be 2.5 or 3 or 4 times, what the employee is getting. And then that way it's rewarding to both. And that way the staff feels appreciated and the doctor feels appreciative to the staff.
That's a great point, because I've seen cases where it's like they don't think it out very well. And the staff hits the metric and the doctor realizes like, well, this isn't really that worth it for me to pay you that much. So they change the bonus at the last minute, and it's like a balloon deflating, right? It's just like,
Right.
if people are like, why do we waste it? And then you lose trust, because it's like,
Right.
next time they do another system, it's like, yeah, like last time, right? Where at the last minute you pulled the
Exactly.
rug from under us because you realized it didn't make sense. So
Right.
I agree. I think that you need to really think about what are you trying to accomplish, right? What, if you accomplish that, what is it really worth to you financially, right? How can you share a portion of that? And I think what Kelly mentioned is also very accurate, is you don't want to be in a situation where it's like, I already pay you a very good salary, what to do a job, right? Like, there's not a bonus attached to everything, right? The bonus should be if you exceed what, beyond what is normally expected. And you're right. I don't think a lot of dentists like really sit down and think like, what is your job description? What does a going above and beyond mean?
Right.
Yeah.
They need to be written down. I mean, everyone needs
That's a
to
good
have
point.
the
Yeah.
rules. Everyone needs to have the rules of what it is, because we can forget. But
Yeah.
these principles are not new. I mean, remember when you were in first grade, and if you brought in the most canned goods for the food drive, you got the pizza party. It's
Yeah.
not a new system.
Yeah.
Incentives aren't new. We give them to our kids. We look forward to this vacation we've been saving for. Incentives aren't new. Everyone
Yeah.
uses them in a certain way, but we want the rules to be clear. And then,
Yeah.
there's a difference between a long-term bonus and a short-term one. If you want more Google reviews, then set a thing that says for 30 days,
Mhm.
we're going to drive this ship. And at the end of 30 days, that's going to be off the table. Maybe not. Maybe I like it and we'll keep rolling with it. But for 30 days, you'll get $10 for every review you get. Make it tangible, make it attainable.
I definitely like writing it down. You're absolutely right, because when we set up a bonus system for our account managers and our sales reps, we wrote it down. And exactly like you said, people always remember different things. Like, oh, I thought it worked this way. It's like, well, it's a good thing we all wrote it down and agreed
And
on it.
everyone has a copy.
And everyone has a copy. So we go down the list and be like, no, this is what it was supposed to be. That's how we're going to follow. We can change it later, but like, no, it's very clear what we all agreed to. And I don't think very many dentists would have that. I'm sure a lot of them try bonuses, but if I were to ask them, like, is this written down somewhere that like everyone, signed off on or agreed to, like, yes, this is how it works, I bet you the answer 99.9% of cases would be no. They never did that.